Anita from Just Anita. Today I'll be talking about the famous 5 of the Canadian War Women's suffragist movement, or whatever the word is. The famous 5 of the Canadian women's suffragist movement were 5 women known as the Famous 5 or the Baronate 5 or the Alberta 5. These 5 women were 5 prominent Canadian suffragettes who advocated for women and children. Henrietta Moore Edwards, Nellie McCron, Louise McKinney, Emily Murphy, and Irene Paulby. On August 27, 1927, they petitioned the federal government to refer the issue of the eligibility of women to be senator to the Supreme Court of Canada. This petition was the foundation of the person's case, a leading constitutional decision. Although most Canadian women vote in federal elections in all provinces, but Quebec by 1927. The case was part of a larger drive for political equality. This was the first step towards equality for women in Canada, and was the start to the first wave of feminism. The question the federal government posed to the Supreme Court was, does the word persons in Section 24 of the British North America Act 1867 include famous persons? In 1928, the Supreme Court unanimously held that women were not qualified persons within the meaning of Point 24 of the British North America Act 1867. The 5 women appealed that ruling to the judicial committee of the Privy Council. At the same time, the highest court of appeal in the British Empire. On October 18, 1929, the judicial community overruled the Supreme Court and held that women were qualified persons and eligible to be appointed to the Senate. Some saw this as radical change, others saw it as a restoration of the original framing of the English constitutional documents, including the 1689 Bill of Rights, which uses only the term person, not the term man or woman for that matter. Some others have interpreted, whatever that word is, the Privy Council rule as causing a change in the Canadian ideological approach to the Canadian Constitution, an approach that has come to be known as the Living Trees Doctrine. However, the famous five, Emily, Henrietta, Nellie, Louise, and Irene, these five women represent economic, powerful movements and change within Canada, as they devoted their lives to advocacy in the 1880s through to the 1890s. As the group first convened in Alberta, the five were intentionally referred to as the Alberta Five by the media. However, as a result of the group's importance to Canada as a whole, the group was eventually referred to as the Famous Five. Let's learn all about the Famous Five of the women's suffrage movement. Number 1. Henrietta Moore Edwards was an author and researcher on women's topics, held an influence within the National Council of Women of Canada, and held chairmanship of the Committee in Law and National Council of Women for more than 35 years. She was also a Red Cross leader during World War I. Edwards was the secretary of the National Subcommittee, which focused on thrift and economy in Canadian homes. She was also a founding member of the Victorian Order of Nurses. Number 2. Nellie McClone. Jobs in her lifetime included teacher, author, public speaker, temperance activist, internationally known women's rights activist, and politician. In 1918, she was a member of the Government World Council, and there's a cat fight. Sorry. And the only woman representative at the League of Nations. McClone famously said, "I've never thought minding my own business is much of a virtue. Too often it's just an excuse for not taking action. When action needs taking," she represented Canada at the Ecumenical Council of the Methodist Church in 1921 and was the first woman on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation Board of the Governors. In 1921, McClone was elected to the Alberta legislature as an MLA in Edmonton for the Liberal Party. She served one term, not being reelected in 1926. She was a member of the Political Equality League of Manitoba, and she played the leading role in the mock parliament held on January 29, 1914. At the Walker Theatre in Winnipeg, which humorously discussed votes for men in the 1960s, after McClellan's name had not been mentioned for nearly a decade. Feminists had rediscovered and had given McClain and the famous Five for their fame. McClain was very well known for her passion for the independence of women and her drive in order to achieve the rights women deserve. Number 3, Louise Buchanan became one of the first 2 women elected to a legislature in the British Empire and the first to take a seat. She was a founder of the Women's Christian Temperance Union in Alberta and the West. She was the organization's vice president for more than 22 years, beginning in 1906, and regularly attended world meetings of the WCTU. Whatever that is. Oh, I know. She signed the period of Privy Council in 1929. In 1931, she became president of the Canadian Union Women's Christian Temperance Union. Buchanan was also named to be commissioner for the first General Council of the United Church of Canada, and was the only woman to sign the Basin of Union. Number 4, Emily Murphy stood out among the famous 5 as she was the British Empire's first female judge. Emily was appointed to the office of Magistrate of the Edmonton Juvenile Court in 1916 and later became the Magistrate of the newly created Women's Court. At the time, no woman had held such a position and many men objected. During her career as a writer, Murphy used the pen name Janie Cudnock. In 1922, she wrote The Black Candle, which detailed her beliefs on race and drug use in Canada and strongly influenced the drug policy of the day. In 1958, the government of Canada had named Emily Murphy a Person of Nation Historic Significance. Survivor decades even after the person's case. The Senate of Canada have voted to acknowledge the 5 women and the famous 5 as honorary senators. And least but last, number 5, Irene Paulby. In 1916, Irene was elected as the first President of the United Farm Women of Alberta, and in 1921 was elected to the Alberta Legislature and received a cabinet post in the United Farmers of Alberta government, becoming the second woman in the British Empire to hold ministerial rank. She was also the first female cabinet minister in Alberta. and still serving in that capacity at the time of the court case. She was a cabinet minister until the downfall of the government in 1935. Holby worked with the Red Cross during World War I and later served on the Board of Governors of the University of Alberta. In statement, if it wasn't for the famous five, changing a big part of Canada history was giving us all women the right to vote and a chance to hold a political position in modern day. 'Cause if it wasn't for the famous five making history for us women, modern day would have been different for us women. So we women would have a big thanks to famous five for changing Canada history. Okay. Hopefully you like that. I might try and do a short later or something. I don't know. I promise, but I'll think of something. Because I haven't done a short in a while. So you know the drill. Comment, subscribe, like, ring the bell. And I have no clue what I'm doing next week. So I will have a good rest of your day and a good week. And see you maybe in a short or next week. Thanks.